leadership in agriculture and food security, a research to policy initiative committed to strengthening agricultural and food systems through evidence-based policy engagement, innovation, and stakeholder collaboration. PiLAF works to bridge the gap between research, practice, and policy making to drive inclusive, sustainable agricultural transformation in agri-food systems in Nigeria and beyond. So I hope that you already know a bit about PiLAF from that brief introduction. And we are on this edition, the 19th edition of the Brown Bag Series. What is the Brown Bag Series? The PiLAF Brown Bag Series is a bi-monthly interactive knowledge sharing platform designed to foster thought-provoking discussions around pressing agricultural policy and development issues. It provides a space for practitioners, researchers, policymakers, and development actors to exchange ideas and practical insights in a very relaxed but intellectually engaging setting. If you look to your left side, I'm sure you are going to know what I'm talking about, very relaxed, because you are in your different spaces. So it's a very relaxed atmosphere. So once again, this is the 19th edition of the PiLAF Brown Bag Series. And I would just like to give a brief recap of the 18th edition. At the 18th edition of the Brown Bag Series, held 2 months ago, we had Mr. Babafemi Adewumi come engage us on tackling last mile infrastructure gap for smallholder farmers through digital solutions. The session explored how digital innovations can improve smallholder farmers' access to markets, finance, information, and essential services. And today we are taking it one step further by looking at digitized post-harvest management, building smart aggregation networks for market access. Agriculture remains a major source of livelihood for millions of farmers, yet significant post-harvest losses continue to reduce profitability and limit market access. Poor storage and transportation systems, fragmented supply chains, and limited access to market information often result in wasted produce and reduced incomes. Digitized post-harvest management offers a transformative solution by leveraging technology to create smart aggregation networks that connect farmers to more efficiently to market. This is not merely a technological upgrade, it's a strategic approach to building inclusive agricultural value chains that maximize productivity, reduce losses, and unlock greater economic opportunities for farmers. For today's edition of the Brown Bag Series, we are so delighted to host the savvy agribusiness expert, Mr. Saheed Adams, whose work cuts across agribusiness development, supply chain, and digital transformation. It is a great delight for me to introduce our speaker for this 19th edition of the Brown Bag Series in person of Mr. Saheed Adams, who already joined the call way beyond every most of us on this call. Just before he takes the reins, I would like to briefly present his profile. Mr. Saeed Adams is a supply chain and agribusiness development expert with over 8 years of dedicated experience in the agricultural sector, built upon a foundational decade-long career in ICT across West Africa. He specializes in the digital transformation of agriculture, focusing on building smart aggregation networks, optimizing digitized post-harvest management systems, and enhancing local food safety and sustainability. As co-founder and driving force behind Eweko Aggregates, Saeed coordinates teams in the designing and implementation of data-driven solutions that successfully bridge the structural gap between smallholder farmer clusters and broad multi-tiered commercial markets. His core expertise and strengths lie in digital Aggregation Networks, designing and deploying low-barrier digital pipelines, SMS, WhatsApp, mobile, web apps, etc., to organize rural farm gate in post-harvest management, crop preservation, standardized sorting, grading protocols, and field-to-market logistics, value chain coordination and governance, facilitating partnerships through strategic memorandums of understanding, managing multi-stakeholder partnerships and governance models, ecosystem capacity building, is a certified trainer in integrated crop management, food safety, and commercial business modeling for smallholders. He is a co-founder, business development, and project manager at Eweco Integrated Services, where he oversees the strategic execution, marketing plans, and operational scaling of bulk agricultural aggregation ecosystems, builds data pipelines that turn daily rural feed operations into actionable data streams, effectively de-risking agri-SMEs for institutional financing, leads major sector infrastructure projects, including clean energy, cold chain development in partnership with technology and infrastructure providers. At Alti Nigeria and Two Scale Initiatives is a farmer cluster development, helping local growers transition from speculative planting to demand-driven harvesting scheduling. Is also co-lead and certified trainer, where he delivers localized capacity training on compliance systems, food safety, and practical digital tools to improve farm gate productivity. Saeed holds several key positions facilitating ecosystem development and inclusive growth within the Nigeria agricultural ecosystem, including board member, Produce Export Development Alliance of Nigeria, PEDA, treasurer, Association of Organic Agriculture Practitioners of Nigeria, NOAN, member and advisor, Southwest Association of Vegetable Farmers and Subsectors, who have Financial Secretary and Business Development Lead, Agri-Impact for Sustainable Development Initiative. Ladies and gentlemen, if your hands are not too busy where you are, with drum rolls and emojis in the chat box, show your excitement for the insightful session we are about to have and make welcome with me Mr. Saheed Adams for his presentation. Over to you, sir. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Oluwaseun. I was just wondering, are all of those things for me? Honestly, yeah. But thank you for having me. I'd like to thank the PiLAF team for giving me this opportunity as well to um discuss with you. It is not a training session, as she has rightly said. It's an avenue for us to discuss, on what's happening on ground, to have insights. Sorry, I didn't know my camera is not on. Yes, can you see me? Yes, okay,
Yes, sir,
great.
we can see you. We can see you.
All right, great. So opportunity for us to have conversations around what's going on in the sector, how we can connect policy to for development. I am not an academia. I am a farmer. Yes, all of this story that was read, the bottom line is that I farm and I work with farmers in these different capacities that she has mentioned. So it's a privilege for me being here today to have conversations with all of you. Again, I am not coming to tell you any new thing, but just more like opening up the conversation for us to have, insights into how we can work together. So if you will permit me, I'd like to share my screen. Okay, can you see? Yeah. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So I dropped on the chat a couple of minutes ago. Tell me, you can drop it on the chat. Let me know which area you play within the agri sector, or generally, what you do. Are you a farmer? Are you a marketer? Are you an academia? Are you a a service provider? Just drop it in the chat. Let me have a feel of the kind of audience that I'm having conversation with. I very much love if I can see my fellow farmers here as well. So please drop in the chat. Let me see, what do you do? Okay, researcher, Mr. Mrs. Ayibo Yabo Adeoye. Okay, early career researcher, Mr. Adeike Oluwa. I'm assuming is a Miss. Oh, sorry, Mrs. I see a female picture there. Yes. Please, more. Any farmer in the house? I help farmers decide with data. Kafayat, I love that. Yes, I love that. Yes, researcher. Ah, no farmer in the house. Ah, okay. Anyways, I think I will just hold for the farmers in the house. So we are going to be talking about post-harvest management today, but not in the usual sense that you know. But this is, how we can leverage on data. Okay, researcher from IIT focusing on agricultural marketing and post-harvest costs. Yes, you are my person, message. All right, I hope I got the name right. So, not to banter around or throw around too much fancy words. It's just a simple way of doing things smarter. From what we know that the farmers can really relate with. So I am going to share some pictures with you. And ask a question. See, so what do you think these brands have in common? You can unmute and speak. I don't think we have too many. Yes, you can unmute and speak, please. What do you think all of these brands? What do you think they have in common? Or what do you know about them? So you can unmute and speak. Okay, sorry. Hello. Can anyone hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you, sir.
Okay. So I'm asking a question now. What do you think these brands have in common? Remember, we're having a discussion. This is not a training session. So please interact with me, flow with me. You can type if you don't want to unmute and speak. We have Amazon, we have Bolt, we have Airbnb, we have Effects, you have Uber, Jumai, or Jumia, and then Bobanguna. They are service providers. That is correct, Oluwaseun. Yes. But then there's something particular about them. Yes, they all use technology. You are very correct. Last mile service provider use digital technologies. Yes. Yami, you're correct. Mr. Alo, oh sorry, Ade Ikeoluwa Logistics, you are very correct. But more interestingly is the fact that these businesses are actually aggregation businesses. We will get to that point to what do they do? Let's take the case of Bolt. Bolt has an app or a system that identifies where the drivers are. They do not own the drivers. They also identify where the customers are. That's me and you that want a ride to UI or want a ride to Yemetu, or we want a ride to which other popular place do I know in Ibadan now? Bodija. They know where the customers are, and they have a system that can also identify where the riders are and then match them together for them to have interaction, and also provide the enabling environment to capture the information and provide consistency, also provide trust. Yes. Amazon does the same thing, but in another business. Airbnb does the same thing. Uber does the same thing. Jumia does the same thing. Jumia does not produce all of the things that you buy online. What they do is that they identify vendors and then link them to people like you and me that want to buy online using that platform to interact. So they are all running on what we call an aggregation business model. That is just what they are in the true sense of it, the kind of model that they are running. But of course, attached to all of this are also many other layers of services that they bring together. But yet, simply put, they are running an aggregation business model. They know the buyer, they know the seller. They create the enabling environment. So I'll share another image with you. This is though I am not a researcher, but I've been involved in several research around the horticultural value chain and then also access to finance. So I've been privy to some information. I've also been privy to also contributing to some information. So I'm going to show you another slide now. So this is a scoping study I did, or I participated in, with a colleague to identify what the horticultural value chain looks like. And we're talking about how the produce moves from the farm to the consumer. So you see on my left side, you have different tiered farmers. You have the medium farmer, you have the smallholder farmer, you have the cluster or aggregator farmer, and then you have the greenhouses. These are the different, these are the different types of farming you can have. And I must say this before I go ahead. I have a bias for horticulture. I am a vegetable farmer. So my conversations today is going to be centered around vegetable production and marketing, though it is also applicable to other commodities of interest. So this is what we were able to, map out as what the value chain looks like, or what the flow looks like from the farm to the table. I've mentioned the different tiered farmers, and you would notice that the arrow seems to be bigger here. What this signifies is that we have majority of the farm produce coming from this set of people. So the depth, or width rather, of the arrow determines or tells you, okay, the volume of what is coming from this farm. And as you can see, they connect to traders, aggregators, who then moves it to urban market. From the urban market, you have the street sellers, you have the open sellers, the hospitality business, delivery, before it eventually gets to this gentleman or woman, or this lady here who now consumes it. So this is what the arrow looks like. You also have the regional markets as well. But one thing that we found missing is this. Yes, it is organized, but really, is it smart? Okay, I'll go on to the next slide. So before I answer that question, now, between all of these diagrams that you see is the post-harvest loss that continuously we hear across different sectors. And on the average for for fresh produce, we record roughly about 40% loss of produce. What that means is, if we are within that uh, diagram that you see, if 100 tons of produce is leaving the farm, what will only get to our tables is going to be just 60%. The remaining 40% has gone to waste due to several reasons. So I call this the leaky bucket. You put water in, at the end of the day, if you happen to get something out, it's just going to be minimal. So, and what is being lost is not only the physical produce, the labor that the farmer has gone through before 3 months of farming or 6 months or 4 months of farming is not easy. And you cannot get those time back. You have lost 40% of your labor on the farm. You've also lost the nutrients in that soil, because the nutrient has been extracted by the plants and it's infused in the produce. 60% of that is also lost. The water that you also use, be it rain or irrigation, is also lost. And also the capital that is invested in inputs, in seed, in paying workers is also lost. We may not be looking at it from that angle, but what we lose is far more than the physical that we see. Are we together? Are we together?
Yes,
Let
sir.
me,
Yes,
all
sir.
right, all right, great. So the root causes of this losses, lack of coordination, poor timing in terms of, when to plant, how to plant, and then also improper handling. We have storage issue. I think Oluwaseun mentioned that in the course of the brief that she was making. Storage issue and the disconnect between demand and supply. I'm sure everyone on this call knows about the tomato scenario that we always have almost every year. At some point in time, the cost is high. At some point in time, is low. At some point in time, you can get a basket of tomato for as low as 25K, and at other times, you can get it as high as 75 and even 100K. There are many reasons attributed to this. One could be seasonality, or seasonality rather, and then the other is, at some point in time you have a lot of farmers planting at the same time and not staggering their production, and everybody's coming to the market at the same time. Of course, the law of demand and supply kicks in, and when there is more, what you have is less price. Now, I think that's just what I mentioned right now. And then again, because of the inefficiency in the system, you have inconsistency in quality and volume. This is attributed to lack of market signals, which is tied to the disconnect between demand and supply. We do not have that data or that system that is able to, at any point in time, align these two together. So what essentially we have is a system failure. So post-harvest in itself is as a result of system failure. And the solutions, of course, one of the solutions I would say is having coordinated activities to address this issue. Since this is a conversation, I would like maybe one or two persons to share a brief experience around this that we can align with. I know we have researchers here that may have collected data over time. Just let's have a brief conversation, maybe 1 minute, 2 minutes on this particular slide. So can I have any volunteer sharing experiences or insights perhaps? Sorry about the background noise. Hello? Does anyone want to try? I'm sorry, I'm moving between slides, so yeah, just forgive me.
I think Chukuka has it. Mr. or Miss Chukuka has their
Okay,
hand
please carry on.
raised. I think they
I
want
can't see your hands, so yes. Okay.
Yes, yes, thank you very much for your presentation. Um, so you're asking for is it a comment or sharing personal experience? What exactly I'm trying? There are
Yeah,
several things that come to mind.
your personal experience. We are having discussions
Okay, so
around this.
when you say 40% is lost, is it total loss? The reason why I say this is we're currently doing some study around um, tomatoes under a project called RSM2SNF. And we're finding some evidence that debunks the common perception, suggesting that the level of losses, particularly around tomatoes, is not as high as we are made to believe. We hopefully will be having some papers, policy briefs around the subject. And so with that information, because the essence is that, yes, so that's why maybe your, I know a literal definition of loss suggests total loss. But what is your own perception or definition of loss? Because I'll give an instance. Say tomatoes, you have the salad version, right? Which is the premium price, right? And so maybe at that price, you're getting premium. Then you have the mama put roadside version of tomatoes where they go to the market, they don't look for the premium type of tomatoes, they look for the downgraded ones because it's cheaper, right? To make
We
sure
call
they
it
meet
a
their
sha.
quality, yes. Yeah. So in that sense, would you say so how do you define loss, right? Because in that sense, it is some people go to the market to look for those that the one that you would call downgraded. That is what their preference is because that's what meets their demand. So that's some thinking that it will be helpful to hear now. Throwing it back at you, your own perception. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. And I appreciate bringing this to the table. From my own perspective now, irrespective of the data, as a farmer, loss for us means what we have lost on the farm and what we're also supposed to get in terms of value. That Esha that you see is also a loss because we're supposed to, or when it is leaving the farm, or the way we perceive that it should leave the farm is supposed to be red ripe, grade A, but along the line, due to transportation stress or handling, it becomes something that drops to grade C. We have put in the exact amount of labor, input, and other resources in getting it to grade A, but we could not, or it eventually now turned from grade A to grade B, either along the value chain or even at the point of our own handling. But going into production, what we want is grade A because we want the premium price. So being sold at that market level for a grade C or a grade D, what we generally call a SHA, is a loss to us from the farmer's perspective. That's the way I would put it. So whether total loss or yeah, I would say, yeah, it's not a total loss per se, but what the chunk of what has been cut off from what we actually expect. So it is still a loss. I don't know if that makes sense. Again, I'm talking from a farmer's perspective. I don't know if that rings. Hello? Can anyone hear me? Okay. All right, great. Then, of course, there's also the other side of it that when it gets to the table, and that one is called a food waste. It gets to the table, and then because we are filled up, we've taken more than enough portion, we now throw the rest of it. That one is food loss. From but from my own perspective, the data I'm referring to is it may not be correct entirely, what is what comes to mind as a farmer. I'll be more than happy to have your feedback on that research. Again, for all of this information are information that we receive or we see online, or maybe by experience at some point in time we can relate with as well. So I don't know if at some point in time we can have a connect around that, because I work with farmers in the Southwest, tomato farmers, sweet corn, pepper farmers. We could also contribute to that conversation as you carry on. So thank you for that. I really appreciate it. Okay, Yami wants to say something. Yes, go ahead, Yami.
Yeah, thank you so much. Um, my name is Masai from IIT.
Oh,
I just want to
okay, that's fine.
maybe to add on what the previous audience you mentioned from Chukukuka. I think most of the post-harvest loss, I would assume that it's a quality deterioration rather than a physical loss, right? So we have also conducted a 3-year experiment in the northern part of Nigeria together with a private SME to address post-harvest loss using plastic crate. And maybe I will come back later on, but I think the percentage loss we got from that was not like 14%, because we were looking only the what we call the physical damage. We didn't measure the quality. Maybe the quality damage could increase the percentage. And the other comment, maybe if you can clarify it, you mentioned about the quality attribute. Is there any market, a graded market that produce premium price for farmers depending on quality?
Okay.
Yeah. And the other, maybe to use this platform for next, maybe from Chukuka, you mentioned they have a policy brief they are preparing. Maybe we have also some evidence. Maybe I don't know how we can link up and learn from each other experience. Just a comment.
All right, thank you so much for that. Yes, I would say for markets generally, standard or non-standard, there's always there's always some level of quality measures that are put in place. As Chukwuka has mentioned, you get to the market, um, the traders somehow find a way of removing the ones that are not so good from the ones that are good, and they sell it at different levels. So right there and then you can assume or infer that there's some kind of grading at that level to differentiate what the grade A is and what a grade B is. When you go to a market in Lagos, a popular Mile 12, a market in Lagos called Mile 12, when they sell in crates, the price is different from when they sell in raffia baskets. This again is attributed to what they call or what they have coined as their standard as well. So because they believe that, okay, well, once it comes in crates, there's some level of quality that is already attached to it. So I would say some of this kind of markets, though informal, already have their own mini system of grading or measuring quality, of measuring quality. It may not be the standard one, but that's what the market works with. I don't know if I've answered you or provided enough insights.
Yes, you did.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. So we'll move on to the next slide, and we're talking about smart aggregation and post-harvest and management. Smart in its sense is just reflective of someone being organized or something being, done in a very neat way. And in the context of our conversation, I would say applying technology to it. The flow that you saw earlier on is, yeah, it's there physically, but then I would say from my experience, quite a number of it is not smart, in the sense that there's no technology oftentimes that you see within that ecosystem as a business. So sorry, as I said, I'm moving in between sides, please just, so the word smart refers to having a quick mental ability, being technologically connected, or possessing a neat, stylish appearance. When you get to our market, or when you sit down and really look back how our produce gets to, from up north, southwest, where it gets to this major markets, they are organized, no doubt. But then how many of this data is captured? How many of this data insight is also used and presented from the business side of things? So that's the angle that I'm coming from. So an aggregation system is dual-sided. You have the farmer side, and then you also have the buyer side. Oftentimes, we focus on the farmer coordination, but leave out the market organization. Beyond the market, what we have most times is, spot markets. This is where people come to, they get the market, they buy, they go. There's no quality check of any sort beyond. If you buy anything from my 12, you cannot return, especially if it is fresh produce. So you carry on with the burden of whatever you have bought, you take responsibility for. So looking at that angle, if there is some level of coordination that is digitized, or you have some level of synchronization, you can get something much more than what we are currently getting. So the research that Tukuka is making, for instance, becomes easy to track without having to actually do any field survey, because this will be data sitting right there for you to key into. I don't know, as I said, I'm not really a researcher, but then oftentimes when we're looking for this information, it is not aggregated in a place where we can retrieve. We have to go all out to, interview people, get it, and then work with it as a business most of the time. So these are things that smart aggregation can bring forth to you. You have efficiency in the supply side. This is where you're able to synchronize harvest. You know what the farmers are growing, you know when they are going to harvest, and it gives you the opportunity to actually look for market ahead of the harvest. On the demand side, as I've said, you're able to predict the quantity and also the quality of what is coming, the time it is coming. It gives you, as a marketer, the opportunity to even delve into the end or the retail side of things, having that information. And beyond everything, it actually empowers the smallholder farmers with the data. We can have structured markets, we can have transparency, we can also have access to finance, because all of this produce, as they are moving through an organized aggregation system, you get to understand the capacity of the farmers and be able to push the necessary finance that are required to move them from point A to point B. So that's what I would call, thinking smart. If we're able to do that. So because of time, I will not, I'll just be rushing through the slides, because I know I want to leave room for conversations to happen. So what smart aggregation can fix? And supply chain addresses post-harvest losses. If or when you understand what the market demand is, also from smart aggregation, you can produce to meet specific demand of the market. And again, if I'm saying, or as I'm saying market, market may not necessarily be the open market as you know it. It could be an organized market, let's say, for instance, hotel, restaurants, and catering services that on a regular demand, let's say, tomatoes, pepper for their business. So on a regular, they need it. It could also be, or generally hospitality business as well. It could be export market, and export market in particular requires a lot of coordination to be able to make those volumes, the quality required, and then also the consistency required. So these are the things that, and then speaking specifically on post-harvest loss, once that synchronization is done, what it means is that you will not be losing a lot to market instability or the fact that you are not able to predict the market. It will reduce. Again, when it comes to scheduling, you grow what is needed and the quality, you focus on the quality that is needed. So more concentration comes from that area when you have more information to work with at the farm level. Oluwaseun talked about the gentleman who came earlier in the last session, talking about what is obtainable at the last mile and how digital technology can solve some of those issues. Now we are talking at the first mile now, and really, if everything goes right from the first mile, we will have less loss at the last mile. That's the way I'm thinking. That's the way I think, actually. So focusing also on resolving this issue at the first mile also becomes now a very, very paramount. So connecting stakeholders, so you now begin to form an ecosystem. Again, remember, I'm talking about aggregation at the farm level, aggregation at the market level as well. And what that creates is an ecosystem that allows other stakeholders like value, input providers. Sorry about the background noise. Input providers, financiers, policymakers like yourself to also be able to work to get data to make the systems better. The input provider will need data on what the production is, what the market production has been over a period of time, and be able to offer input that is needed to increase from by a certain percentage in their productivity. This is market for the input provider as well. So this is what smart aggregation can actually, do. Coordination enable resilience and inclusive agribusiness development. Again, I think I've mentioned it in passing. Policymakers, donor agencies can leverage on this to also be able to deliver on the impact that this different project or programs have. When you have a coordinated system at the market level and then also at the farmer level, what you have is it's easier for you to identify gaps and bring in interventions that will fix those gaps because you have data to work with. Yes, aggregation is everybody's responsibility, really. Yes, you can have an aggregator, but then collecting the information, if the farmer is not provided the information, the aggregator is at a loss. If the market is also one way or the other not providing the information that is needed, the aggregator is also at a loss. So it's both parties' responsibility and also beyond to also be able to what's the word now, help out with this business. We run a business that is majorly on aggregation. I will get to that point and then give you insights on how we make things work within our own within our own system. I don't know if there are any comments, maybe questions, perhaps. I can pause here and let's discuss. Again, just to remind you, this is not a training session. I'm not coming to tell you what you don't already know, but share insight and see how we can make the system, a lot better for us. Yes, you have the floor. Comments, even questions still. Yes.
So we'd like to take the question at the end of your presentation.
Okay. All right. No problem. So,
Can you hear me?
yeah, I can hear you.
Thank
So we are talking about, simple things that we can use to make this work. It does not necessarily have to be something complex. So key considerations of things to just look into: simple digital coordination, something as simple as WhatsApp. Our own story started from WhatsApp, where we now have a slightly complex system that we use, but our communication effectively started from, one-on-one, having phone calls, and then taking it to WhatsApp. From WhatsApp, we're now having what we call web app, and then also mobile app. So it started from something as simple as those things that I mentioned as well. So data-driven supply coordination. Um, so again, still falling back to matching what or when the harvest is going to be, and also pushing this for market insights. Sorry, Ito. Sorry, just a minute. I think it's okay. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry about that. So data-driven supply coordination, and also the benefits that can come to stakeholders having this information. What we do within our own system to be able to push for market is that we know when the produce are going to be out. We know also when we can advise the farmer based on the fact that we know. Okay, let me give you a scenario within where we operate from currently, which is Lagos Ekpe axis, Abeokuta axis, with the information on what the harvesting time or what the planting time is. We can project what the harvesting time can be, and then also prepare market ahead to be able to receive. We can also stop others that want to plant that are within our system, that trust us enough. Give them advisory that, okay, with the volume of what we have already planted at this point in time, it will make sense for you to diversify your crop or reduce the volume, because there's going to be a potential glut within the small area that we work with. So we're able to coordinate them using the information that we collect from them to have an efficient system. And then with that, we're able to reduce waste, stabilize prices as well, because we can say, okay, well, since we know that this, from the data we have collected, the volume of production this time around is going to be this much. So farmer A, farmer B, increase your quota by X number of kg so that we can be able to meet up. Or if it is too much, in your next planting, diversify your crop so that you don't fall in you don't fall among those that are going to be struggling with the market when the glut eventually comes. So these are things that we use, just simple digital tools to use. We also use Excel as well. So we are building, it's not yet perfect now. We are building a system now that can also leverage on AI to also be able to make all of these decisions for us as a business, for the farmers as well, and other stakeholders. So simple tools to start with. Now, quality is key. I'll just rush through this, and again, I'm focusing on farm gates. You have to consider when to harvest, and then also the possibilities that you incur if you harvest at the wrong time. Tomatoes, most of the time, you will not want to harvest it at a period where it is raining. Pepper, for instance, very, very bad. You cannot harvest pepper during the rain, because what happens if the humidity is high is that it accelerates the deterioration. So again, grading, sorting at the farm level. When you do this, or as we do this with our farmers at that level, it reduces the loss that we incur. We have information, we have trained them, we have also supplied, or we are providing support services for them around post-harvest management, for them to understand that when you want to harvest, this is how you harvest, this is how you put it in the crate. You don't throw it in the crate, you arrange it, and from time to time you do sorting. We also have a cold storage. Anyway, I'll get to that point at a later part. So this is how we handle issues of quality at the farm gates as an aggregator and with the farmers. So it is not only aggregation at the center, but aggregation before it actually gets to our aggregation center and eventually to the different marketplace. I mentioned earlier there are different types of markets that we engage. And again, based on the different quality level that has been set, we approach these different markets. You have the premium markets that would want, okay, they want it red ripe, they don't want any blemish, they want it a particular figure round. So you focus on those markets for your grade A. There's also the export markets that specifically will even give you the dimension sometimes. So you have to have different layer of market segments that can accommodate. First of all, you are going to be targeting those markets, and then if you have a shortfall rather, you can also approach other markets that you would have laid down. And this again comes from you working at the market level to ensure that this different tier of market is established ahead of time. There's money in this. Our mantra at Ewico is we connect people, we connect process, and we connect platform. And in doing this, data is also collected over a period of time that becomes valuable to a risk management service provider or risk service providers. It also becomes important to financiers as well, to unlock access to finance, because we have information on the volume of produce that have been sold over a period of time. We have documented issues on quality. We have the value of the price, the value of the produce over a period of time, and we can approach these institutions, this service provider, that, okay, yes, this farmer has been doing well, we're opening up more markets, but their capacity to be able to improve it, they need so amount of finance. And we can serve, for instance, as the off-taker with some level of guarantee coming in, because we've been interacting with them over a period of time. It is then that the data now becomes an asset that you can draw from. But again, as I mentioned, it is something that has to be done over a period of time, and that is what we are doing in our organization at the moment. So I think I've mentioned this in passing. I don't want to dwell too much on it. I'm also looking at time. your role within the ecosystem as farmers, being able to supply the data that is needed at any time and incentivized as well. Because I know that as farmers don't want to release data unless there's something that they want to get from it. And again, we are connecting this to market. So there's a sort of incentive that we have built around that will encourage them to provide data that is needed by our system or by the aggregation system. And then again, for researchers and students, build platforms to test ideas and apply practical approach. Just as the other gentleman was mentioning, well, my antenna lit up when he mentioned that they are doing some tests around, conducting some surveys around tomatoes. Of course, immediately, if there's anything we can help out with around this area, yes, we'll be more than happy to do that. So the researchers, when they come in, they are supposed to improve business, the environment, and also the policy environment or the policy that is also going to be applied. So you also have your role as market actors and buyers, yeah, that we also have our own role as well in organizing the networks for consistency as well. And then for policy, this is where PiLAF comes in. And their members. You know, I'm sure they all already have information about what is going on now, but maybe just getting the deep level or grassroots information from the practitioners also can drive in some insight for them to push in some ideas to government on what policies they can put in place to ensure that the systems work. So we are leading by example. I'm not just talking for the sake of it. This is not an academic exercise. This, for me, is a business that we have been running for some time. Yes, we have had challenges and we are still having challenges, but then we are still forging ahead. Leading by example, that's what I call it. Our system is built in such a way that it connects people, platform, and then also process. Process is key in the sense that for you to be able to scale this operation, you have to have some basic guidelines, some SOPs, some flows that allows you to consistently work with farmers across board, southwest, north, east, even cross sub-regional, West Africa. Yeah, so we are putting all of those things in place to ensure it works. And it's an ecosystem for us because we are not bringing all of the solutions. We are not building all of the solutions, but we are building a platform that allows other people to key in. The policymaker can key in, the logistics provider must key in, the finance people can key in, the researchers can also key in, because in all of this, you have valuable data that you can work with to be able to draw insights and do what you do best around, you know, making recommendations and pushing policies in place. So this is what we do with the platform that we are building. We call it aggregate.com. We are community focused. We draw real-time insight from data that we are collecting over time. We also are key or big on quality assurance. And then on the market side, this becomes a system that is seamless for procuring bulk supplies. So that is basically what we do. We do smart aggregation. So pushing further, you know, telling you more about this, sorry. We want to leverage on AI. And of course, as most of you know, AI, it is data that drives AI. So with the solution that we have put in place at the moment, over a period of time, we can draw insight, we can make intelligent decisions, and even automate some things with minimal intervention once we're able to fully integrate the AI components that we are building alongside. And the interesting thing about our solution is that we're not just talking about digital. We are also integrating the physical infrastructure that is needed. And in this case, cold storage. You cannot be talking about fresh produce, maintaining quality without having some sort of way to store or cool your fresh produce so that they do not deteriorate rapidly. And we're also integrating renewable energy in this. At the moment, we have a 5-ton capacity cold storage in Ekwe, and our solution is modular. What we have in Ekwe, we intend to bring to Ibadan, we intend to bring to Ilorin, we intend to bring to Kaduna. The technology will expand beyond borders, but the infrastructure have to be put in a place where it actually makes a lot of sense, and that would be at the first mile before the produce. This is where you can maintain the quality. Anything that gets to Lagos, for instance, now, and you say you want to maintain the quality, you're only wasting your time, because if the quality is not maintained or considered at the first mile, what you have is you would have lost a substantial amount of nutrients, of quality, of taste along the value chain before it eventually gets to Lagos. So I'm just using Lagos as an example. Lagos is not the only market we have. So behind this now is the fact that within the system, we're able to also offer technical assistance, reduce risk by offering crop advisory and food system management as well. So the farmers and also value chain actors that we continue to meet along the way. So what we are building is an ecosystem. So we cannot do this alone. I was excited, when this opportunity to make this presentation came in, because I felt, okay, well, it could be an avenue for us to also engage other people within the space to see what we can do together. So I will pause here or stop here. And if you have questions, comments, please feel free. I don't know, moderator, Oluwaseun, I think you can take it from here.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir. This has been a very eye-opening section, and I think that we already have some questions in the chat box. But before we go on to take those questions, I want to really appreciate you for um, this session that you've had and your presentation. Everybody on this call, the attendance link has been dropped in the chat box. Please do well to fill it for our record. I would just like to highlight a couple of things that you said in this session before we take the questions and contributions. You have talked about how market isn't just open market or local market. The fact that we have the export market and the market to the hospitality people, the hotels, restaurants, and all. We have talked about that. We have talked about smart aggregation, how we can improve coordination across production and marketing. And you have given us a couple of steps on simple digital tools, using mobile phones, WhatsApp to collect data on harvest timing and planting, so that we can know the quantity, which helps match the supply with demand effectively. We have also talked about how we can protect quality at the farm gate, the golden hours and all of the examples you gave us. We have also mentioned that collecting data helps make informed decisions, like we're trying to, since we're looking at post-harvest management, and we have talked about our roles to play. On this call, when we started the call, we had researchers. I don't know if we have farmers now. We had more researchers on the call, but we have talked about the fact that we all have roles to play, like open up to collaborations, to have an open mind, to platforms to test ideas and apply practical research. And then you have mentioned that post-harvest management is the first mile after, comparing it to the last edition where we add the mile after. So thank you so much for all that you have mentioned. And I know that everybody on this call will agree that the conversation on post-harvest management is such an important one, a must have. And now that we have learned, it's time to act on the knowledge that we have gained. So I will look into the chat box, and we have a question from Miss Inka Stella Maris, asking if the transport systems look into, speaking of using cold room trucks, kind of just thinking out loud. If you not mind unmuting your mic to ask that question for clarity, please. Would like you to ask that question. Where now we have the opportunity to ask our questions, drop our contributions, and I'd like to invite us to ask our questions. So, Miss Yinka Stella Maris, or Mrs. or Miss, I'm not sure, please, if you'd like to ask your question, please unmute your mic. Thank you.
All right. So thank you, Miss Oluwaseun, right?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, I hope I am audible enough. I'm just a bit concerned about the fact that most of these veggies, speaking of tomatoes, pepper, rodo, all of that, when you see them being transported from the north, you see them in baskets, raffia baskets, and they are tied with some ropes, and the whole method of transporting them makes them to already have damages before they even get to the market. So I was thinking of that, and at some point I looked into what is done elsewhere in other countries outside Nigeria. I see that they have cold transport system. I see that they use crates that will pack the tomatoes in a very nice way. They'll put them in the trucks that are cold rooms. They are transported under a very cold condition. So the temperature, everything is regulated. By the time you get to the market, you have them in good shape, the value is still maintained. And so I am of the opinion that I don't know what can be done for us here in this country, Nigeria, whether we could look into the transport system also and see whether these cold hubs can work really. The cold trucks, cold room trucks, that we have them transporting things like fish, all those frozen fish. We have them that transport such kind of products, but we don't have it for vegetables really in Nigeria. I'm just thinking out loud that can that be possible that from the farm the transport system is also organized in that manner, and the means of transporting the tomatoes to the market is done with those kind of vehicles, not just tying the tomato in a way that before you get to the market, the whole thing is damaged, and the next thing you see in the market is a sha, the downgraded kind of tomato, sort of. So that is my own point, and I thought we could just ruminate on it and see who can be spoken to help with this, and then see what we can do to help our farmers, at the same time to help the marketers, at the same time help the consumers. Thank you.
All right. Thank you,
Thank you very much,
Mrs.
Ma.
Stella
So
Maris.
that would
No.
like you to take
Carry
the
on,
questions
Oluwaseun.
together. We are quite
Carry on.
connected. Okay, so I just want
Okay.
the other person who has their hand raised to unmute and ask their questions so that you can take the questions together very briefly. Thank you. That should be Mr. or Mrs. Olua, please.
The speaker, I'm really happy when you mentioned the code up at the end of your presentation. The thing I wanted to talk, it's a contribution and a question at the same time. And most of the time, just painting a scenario in our head, if you are used to Ibadan and you walk through Bodija markets, maybe this morning, you just notice that the prices of tomato or any other perishable goods, they just fluctuate. In the morning, it's different price, in the afternoon, it's different price. And most of the time, the critical loss point is sits at the storage, the processing, the distribution. The smart aggregation network is very fantastic, but that's more or less like it can work in a situation where we have a functional collection of either at the local government level. But the question I want to ask is that is it possible for us, just like the last speaker mentioned, that for the transportation we have code hubs for those transporting fish? Why can't we also have hubs like code hub, just mini code hubs for those selling, not transporting out, those selling tomatoes or other perishable goods? Can it also be factored in a way that they also, it's not just the fish sellers that will have the code of, they should also integrate this into their own system, not just about selling it. Even if we have the transportation, when it gets to the last point of the mile, when it gets to the last point, there should be also a way to preserve this produce. That's my thoughts.
Sayed, you have the floor to answer the questions now. Please, briefly. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the question, and they are actually very practical questions. I will speak from the information I already have. So, for the transport system, there's what we call cold chain, and cold chain means it's leaving a temperature, it's leaving a point at a temperature, and then getting to the other end at almost the same temperature. And that's what is effectively used most of the time when it comes to export markets. So what we have, or what I see essentially, is that we have these cold hubs in markets. I know there's one in Mile 12 markets, and I think there are a few also in some markets in Ibadan. I'm not 100% sure where, but I do know that they have some locations in Ibadan. So for a cooling van to fully functional within that mix between the farm and the markets, there has to be established system in place where right from, and that's what I'm talking about, right from the farm where you have, or the farms rather now, not the farm, the farms now where you have a central collection point. That temperature is maintained from that point. You can have a cold storage there. From that point, then it makes economic sense to also now have, of course, based on the volume, to also now have a cold truck or a cooling truck to move it all the way from that destination to a point where it will also offload, where you already have another cold hub to house it. Normally, for organized markets, they do not sell. They sell their produce in a temperature controlled environment. Unfortunately, we do not have that in most of the markets we have. But again, that's just a type of market. For the more organized markets, unfortunately, they don't have that capacity. You have quite, I'm talking from experience now, you have quite a number of them taking on smaller volumes. So even the center where they are going to collect this, they don't have it because of the disaggregated volume that is coming in. So if or when we now eventually have this smart aggregation coming in, it will now make economic sense to have a cold truck that can move the produce from the farm or farms or collection center where you already have a cold storage, move it through and come down to a place to offload it where you also already have a cold hub or a cold storage system there available to, for use at that point in time. So That is possible. The challenges that I've seen over a period of time is the policy, because it is capital intensive, the policies to support all of this kind of infrastructure. The business is extremely risky. People putting in their money into this kind of business is actually very difficult because, again, the market is not stable. There's no control of price. There's no way to manage the prices. We are still heavily dependent on seasonality. So again, there are no policies to actually create some balance where the private sector can come in to invest into this kind of business and have it optimized. But I can tell you what we are doing at our own level. But before I do that, let me quickly respond to, I think that in a way it's also answering the other ladies, I think Ifeoluwa's contribution and question as well. There has to be something like a closed circuit where right from the farm to the retail point, you have this cold storage in place. What we are doing at our own side is focusing on the farm level to have these modular systems. What we have in Ekpe is a cold storage and an aggregation center with a mini pack house. That mini pack house is where we are doing sorting and grading. So farmers come around because we have access to markets. We tell them, bring your produce. We already have access to this market. Of course, at a stipulated time, not just anyhow, it's organized. Bring your produce. We have access to markets. While we are aggregating the volume together, we use the cold storage as a collection point. We are maintaining the temperature. Now, remember that. We use it as a collection point, and then we now hit the market that we want to hit. As I mentioned earlier, quite a number of these structured markets don't have that volume to assimilate the produce that are coming in. But we're expanding the reach of those structured markets. That's why I say again, at the market level, you need to aggregate. You need to aggregate. Once you aggregate those kind of market as we are doing, it now becomes easy to now insert a cold truck inside the equation that can go to locations, let's say for instance in Lekki, 3, 4, 5 locations that we have already mapped out to now drop the produce for them. At their own retail end, we have at their own retail end, they have mini chillers that the produce can now be offloaded to, and then they do their own retailing. It still boils back to the fact that we really need to be coordinated to be able to achieve this, and that's what they do in other climes where places like Netherlands, UK, US, yeah, they have cold trucks bringing in their fresh produce most of the time. We are going to get there. We will get there. So our modular system is built to be in different locations at the farm level to tackle this first of all, and then we now build a chain that can now link into the market in various places. I hope I've been able to contribute to the conversation. I cannot totally address it because I am not government or the whole entire business ecosystem, but I can tell you what we are doing to be able to sort this out. And in addition, as well, for the Southwest, we are working with groups of farmers, Southwest Association of Vegetable Farmers and Sellers, to help them build a network where it is now going to be easy to identify where these farms are, what they do, and be able to build solutions that will work with them in terms of aggregation, in terms of logistics, in terms of input, and the likes. Thank you. Yeah, back to you, Oluwaseun. And we can have conversations around this generally. what you feel the solutions can actually be. These sessions, this is what it is meant to do. So back to you, Loashel. Yes, Loashel.
Yes, thank you very
Okay, Mr.
much.
Mohammed Gaba.
Good afternoon, Mr. Saheed. Thank you for good presentation. And I am overwhelmed with this your topic. But however, I want to just make an observation or response to the person. I think is this Olayinka or Inka that made mention of the issue of transportation, particularly in Nigeria, with regards to vegetables, which are which are what do you call it, perishable in nature. That is why it is difficult to transport them. And she made mention that compared to other countries, maybe in Africa or in the world, where they are transported using coal vans. And relative to what you said, there is a problem of price control in terms of regulating the price. Look at, for example, if we talk about meat and fish, already the prices are being controlled by the sellers. But in terms of vegetables, I always used to complain of this. If now they can able to now have they can able to regulate the prices, even in terms of weighing it. If you go to Morocco, for instance, because I was there, if you are to buy a vegetables, you can they have a weighing scale whereby you, based on the weight, you make your payment is per kg. So what I want to say here is, I think the most important thing, if we look at the developed worlds, is as you said earlier, and at the same time as Oluwation said, we have to expand the value chain. By expanding the value chains of our vegetables, definitely we can overcome the problems mentioned by Yinka, whereby the vegetables as they are being transported from the north down to the south, that is in the markets, they are being damaged. There are a lot of bruises of which a consumer will not like to buy it like that way. So expanding the value chain, I think definitely will solve such an issue. Then the solutions you are providing, the smart solution you are providing, I think it is very important. But all the same, let me emphasize this: if we can have cottage industries that can be able to process tomatoes into paste, then they can be transported comfortably down to the consumers wherever they are. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much,
Thank
sir.
you, sir.
Thank you. Please, can you confirm if you can hear me?
Yes, we can
Yes,
hear
we
you.
can
Thank you,
hear you.
Mr. Gaba.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the questions and thank you for your contributions. I would like to appreciate everyone who has been on this call since we started and has participated actively, um, even till now. Um, I would like to encourage us that the PiLAF Brown Bag Series is one that holds bi-monthly, once every 2 months. So we like that you fix a your mind on it, that every 2 months you are going to join this Brown Bag Series. There's a lot to learn, there's a lot to do. So please always engage when you see our flyers, follow us on LinkedIn, check out our website. We have a lot of things for you to check out. As we round up, I would like to invite PiLAF's administrative manager, Mr. Iredele Ogunbayo, for the closing remark. Thank you. Please unmute yourself, sir.
Yeah, so I'm speaking through um, another device. So I would like to thank everyone for joining this particular session. Special thanks to Mr. Saheed Adams for the great presentation. I think it was quite insightful, and the fact that we have people join from when we started up to now, we've had stable number of participants. I think it shows that it's an indicator of being engaging and informative. So I'd like to thank you and thank everyone for joining, taking time out of your schedule. You could have attended other. Everyone has other things one could have done, but just to join this very important conversation. And we hope that you are able to join us in subsequent brown bag sessions. These are 19th. Hopefully, the 20th edition will take place in the next 2 months. We'll share for those who fill the attendance sheet. We'll share details, the next sessions with you all. So again, Mr. Saeed, thank you very much. I believe we'll be able to we'll take this conversation further and see where we can have further collaborations. And if there's anyone who has any idea, 1 hour 30 minutes is never cannot be sufficient to address these issues, but sufficient to stir up ideas and areas of that we can further discuss. So PiLAF is open for for collaboration in any way possible, and I believe we all as stakeholders in the agri-food system will continue to work together to solve all of these challenges that we have and ensure that Nigeria's food secured in the long run. So thank you all, and wish you all a good rest of your day. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you, sir.